He does not run into trifling dangers, nor is he fond of danger, because he honors few things, but he will face great dangers, and when he is in danger he is unsparing of his life, knowing that there are conditions on which life is not worth having. And he is the sort of man to confer benefits, but he is ashamed of receiving them, for the one is the mark of a superior, the other of an inferior. And he is apt to confer greater benefits in return, for thus the original benefactor, besides being paid, will incur a debt to him, and will be the gainer by the transaction. They seem also to remember any service they have done, but not those they have received, for he who receives a service is inferior to him who has done it, but the proud man wishes to be superior, and to hear of the former with pleasure, of the latter with displeasure. This, it seems, is why Thetys did not mention to Zeus the services she had done him, and why the Spartans did not recount their services to the Athenians, but those they had received. It is a mark of the proud man also to ask for nothing or scarcely anything, but to give help readily, and to be dignified towards people who enjoy high position and good fortune, but unassuming towards those of the middle class, for it is a difficult and lofty thing to be superior to the former, but easy to be so to the latter, and a lofty bearing over the former is no mark of ill-breeding, but among humble people it is as vulgar as a display of strength against the weak. Again, it is characteristic of the proud man not to aim at the things commonly held in honor, or the things in which others excel, to be sluggish and to hold back except where great honor or a great work is at stake, and to be a man of few deeds but of great and notable ones. He must also be open in his hate and in his love, for to conceal one's feelings, that is, to care less for truth than for what people will think, is a coward's part, and must speak and act openly, for he is free of speech because he is contemptuous, and he is given to telling the truth, except when he speaks in irony to the vulgar. He must be unable to make his life revolve round another, unless it be a friend, for this is slavish, and for this reason all flatterers are servile, and people lacking in self-respect are flatterers. Nor is he given to admiration, for nothing to him is great. Nor is he mindful of wrongs, for it is not the part of a proud man to have a long memory, especially for wrongs, but rather to overlook them. Nor is he a gossip, for he will speak neither about himself nor about another, since he cares not to be praised nor for others to be blamed, nor again is he given to praise, and for the same reason he is not an evil speaker, even about his enemies, except from haughtiness. With regard to necessary or small matters he is least of all given to lamentation or the asking of favors, for it is the part of one who takes such matters seriously to behave so with respect to them. He is one who will possess beautiful and profitless things rather than profitable and useful ones, for this is more proper to a character that suffices to itself. Further, a slow step is thought proper to the proud man, a deep voice, and a level utterance, for the man who takes few things seriously is not likely to be hurried, nor the man who thinks nothing great to be excited, while a shrill voice and a rapid gait are the results of hurry and excitement. Such, then, is the proud man. The man who falls short of him is unduly humble, and the man who goes beyond him is vain. Now even these are not thought to be bad, for they are not malicious, but only mistaken. For the unduly humble man, being worthy of good things, robs himself of what he deserves, and to have something bad about him from the fact that he does not think himself worthy of good things, and seems also not to know himself, else he would have desired the things he was worthy of, since these were good. Yet such people are not thought to be fools, but rather unduly retiring. Such a reputation, however, seems actually to make them worse, For each class of people aims at what corresponds to its worth, and these people stand back even from noble actions and undertakings, deeming themselves unworthy, and from external goods no less. Vain people, on the other hand, are fools and ignorant of themselves, and that manifestly, for, not being worthy of them, they attempt honorable undertakings, and then are found out, and they adorn themselves with clothing and outward show and such things, and wish their strokes of good fortune to be made public, and speak about them as if they would be honored for them. But undue humility is more opposed to pride than vanity is, for it is both commoner and worse. Pride, then, is concerned with honor on the grand scale, as has been said. There seems to be in the sphere of honor also, as was said in our first remarks on the subject, a virtue which would appear to be related to pride as liberality is to magnificence. For neither of these has anything to do with the grand scale, but both dispose us as is right with regard to middling and unimportant objects, as in getting and giving of wealth there is a mean and an excess and defect. So too honor may be desired more than is right, or less, or from the right sources and in the right way. We blame both the ambitious man as omit honor more than is right and from wrong sources, and the unambitious man as not willing to be honored even for noble reasons. But sometimes we praise the ambitious man as being manly and a lover of what is noble, and the unambitious man as being moderate and self-controlled, as we said in our first treatment of the subject. Evidently, since fond of such and such an object has more than one meaning, we do not assign the term ambition or love of honor always to the same thing, but when we praise the quality we think of the man who loves honor more than most people, and when we blame it we think of him who loves it more than is right. The mean being without a name, the extremes seem to dispute for its place as though that were vacant by default. But where there is excess and defect, there is also an intermediate. Now men desire honor both more than they should and less, therefore it is possible also to do so as one should. At all events this is the state of character that is praised, being an unnamed mean in respect of honor. Relatively to ambition it seems to be unambitiousness, and relatively to unambitiousness it seems to be ambition, while relatively to both severally it seems in a sense to be both together. This appears to be true of the other virtues also, but in this case the extremes seem to be contradictories because the mean has not received a name. Good temper is a mean with respect to anger, the middle state being unnamed, and the extremes almost without a name as well. We place good temper in the middle position, though it inclines towards the deficiency, which is without a name. The excess might call a sort of irascibility. For the passion is anger, while its causes are many and diverse. The man who is angry at the right things and with the right people, and, further, as he ought, when he ought, and as long as he ought, is praised. This will be the good-tempered man, then, since good temper is praised. For the good-tempered man tends to be unperturbed and not to be led by passion, but to be angry in the manner, at the things, and for the length of time, that the rule dictates, but he is thought to err rather in the direction of deficiency, for the good-tempered man is not revengeful, but rather tends to make allowances. The deficiency, whether it is a sort of irascibility or whatever it is blamed. For those who are not angry at the things they should be angry at are thought to be fools, and so are those who are not angry in the right way, at the right time, or with the right persons. For such a man is thought not to feel things nor to be pained by them, and, since he does not get angry, he is thought unlikely to defend himself, and to endure being insulted and put up with insult to one's friends is slavish. The excess can be manifested in all the points that have been named, for one can be angry with the wrong persons, at the wrong things, more than is right, too quickly, or too long, yet all are not found in the same person. Indeed they could not, for evil destroys even itself, and if it is complete becomes unbearable. Now hot-tempered people get angry quickly and with the wrong persons and at the wrong things and more than is right, but their anger ceases quickly, which is the best point about them. This happens to them because they do not restrain their anger but retaliate openly owing to their quickness of temper, and then their anger ceases. By reason of excess, choleric people are quick-tempered and ready to be angry with everything and on every occasion, whence their name. Sulky people are hard to appease, and retain their anger long, for they repress their passion. But it ceases when they retaliate, for revenge relieves them of their anger, producing in them pleasure instead of pain. If this does not happen, they retain their burden, for owing to its not being obvious no one even reasons with them, and to digest one's anger in oneself takes time. Such people are most troublesome to themselves and to their dearest friends. We call hot-tempered those who are angry at the wrong things, more than is right, and longer, and cannot be appeased until they inflict vengeance or punishment. To good temper we oppose the excess rather than the defect, for not only is it commoner since revenge is the more human, but bad-tempered people are worse to live with. What we have said in our earlier treatment of the subject is plain also from what we are now saying, viz. That it is not easy to define how, with whom, at what, and how long one should be angry, and at what point right action ceases and wrong begins. For the man who strays a little from the path, either towards the more or towards the less, is not blamed, since sometimes we praise those who exhibit the deficiency and call them good-tempered, and sometimes we call angry people manly, as being capable of ruling. How far, therefore, and how a man must stray before he becomes blameworthy, it is not easy to state in words, for the decision depends on the particular facts and on perception. But so much at least is plain, that the middle state is praiseworthy, that in virtue of which we are angry with the right people, at the right things, in the right way, and so on, while the excesses and defects are blameworthy, slightly so if they are present in a low degree, more if in a higher degree, and very much if in a high degree. Evidently, then, we must cling to the middle state. Enough of the states relative to anger. In gatherings of men, in social life and the interchange of words and deeds, some men are thought to be obsequious, viz. Those who to give pleasure praise everything and never oppose, but think it their duty to give no pain to the people they meet, while those who, on the contrary, oppose everything and care not a whit about giving pain are called churlish and contentious. That the states we have named are culpable is plain enough, and that the middle state is laudable, that in virtue of which a man will put up with, and will resent, the right things and in the right way, but no name has been assigned to it, though it most resembles friendship. For the man who corresponds to this middle state is very much what, with affection added, we call a good friend. But the state in question differs from friendship in that it implies no passion or affection for one's associates, since it is not by reason of loving or hating that such a man takes everything in the right way, but by being a man of a certain kind. For he will behave so alike towards those he knows and those he does not know, toward his intimates and those who are not so, except that in each of these cases he will behave as is befitting, for it is not proper to have the same care for intimates and for strangers, nor again is it the same conditions that make it right to give pain to them. Now we have said generally that he will associate with people in the right way, but it is by reference to what is honorable and expedient that he will aim at not giving pain or at contributing pleasure. For he seems to be concerned with the pleasures and pains of social life, and wherever it is not honorable, or is harmful, for him to contribute pleasure, he will refuse, and will choose rather to give pain, also if his acquiescence in another's action would bring disgrace, and that in a high degree or injury on that other, while his opposition brings a little pain, he will not acquiesce but will decline. He will associate differently with people in high station and with ordinary people, with closer and more distant acquaintances, and so too with regard to all other differences, rendering to each class what is befitting, and while for its own sake he chooses to contribute pleasure, and avoids the giving of pain, he will be guided by the consequences, if these are greater, that is, honor and expediency. For the sake of the great future pleasure, too, he will inflict small pains. The man who attains the mean, then, is such as we have described, but has not received the name of those who contribute pleasure. The man who aims at being pleasant with no ulterior object is obsequious, but the man who does so in order that he may get some advantage in the direction of money or the things that money buys is a flatterer, while the man who quarrels with everything is, as has been said, churlish and contentious. And the extremes seem to be contradictory to each other, because the mean is without a name. The mean opposed to boastfulness is found in almost the same sphere, and this also is without a name. It will be no bad plan to describe these states as well, for we shall both know the facts about character better if we go through them in detail, and we shall be convinced that the virtues are means if we see this to be so in all cases. In the field of social life, those who make the giving of pleasure or pain their object in associating with others have been described. Let us now describe those who pursue truth or falsehood alike in words and deeds and in the claims they put forward. The boastful man, then, is thought to be apt to claim the things that bring glory, when he has not got them, or to claim more of them than he has, and the modest man, on the other hand, to disclaim what he has or belittle it, while the man who observes the mean is one who calls a thing by its own name, being truthful both in life and in word, owning to what he has, and neither more nor less. Now each of these courses may be adopted either with or without an object. But each man speaks and acts and lives in accordance with his character, if he is not acting for some ulterior object. And falsehood is in itself mean and culpable, and truth noble and worthy of praise. Thus the truthful man is another case of a man who, being in the mean, is worthy of praise, and both forms of untruthful man are culpable, and particularly the boastful man. Let us discuss them both, but first of all the truthful man. We are not speaking of the man who keeps faith in his agreements, that is, in the things that pertain to justice or injustice, for this would belong to another virtue, but the man who in the matters in which nothing of this sort is at stake is true both in word and in life, because his character is such. But such a man would seem to be as a matter of fact equitable. For the man who loves truth, and is truthful where nothing is at stake, will still more be truthful where something is at stake. He will avoid falsehood as something base, seeing that he avoided it even for its own sake, and such a man is worthy of praise. He inclines rather to understate the truth, for this seems in better taste, because exaggerations are wearisome. He who claims more than he has with no ulterior object is a contemptible sort of fellow, otherwise he would not have delighted in falsehood, but seems futile rather than bad. But if he does it for an object, he who does it for the sake of reputation or honor is, for a boaster, not very much to be blamed, but he who does it for money, or the things that lead to money, is an uglier character. It is not the capacity that makes the boaster, but the purpose, for it is in virtue of his state of character and by being a man of a certain kind that he is boaster, as one man is a liar because he enjoys the lie itself, and another because he desires reputation or gain. Now those who boast for the sake of reputation claim such qualities as will praise or congratulation, but those whose object is gain claim qualities which are of value to one's neighbors and one's lack of which is not easily detected. For example, the powers of a seer, a sage, or a physician. For this reason it is such things as these that most people claim and boast about, for in them the above-mentioned qualities are found. Mock modest people, who understate things, seem more attractive in character, for they are thought to speak not for gain but to avoid parade, and here too it is qualities which bring reputation that they disclaim, as Socrates used to do. Those who disclaim trifling and obvious qualities are called humbugs and are more contemptible, and sometimes this seems to be boastfulness, like the Spartan dress, for both excess and great deficiency are boastful. But those who use understatement with moderation and understate about matters that do not very much force themselves on our notice seem attractive. And it is the boaster that seems to be opposed to the truthful man, for he is the worse character. Since life includes rest as well as activity, and in this is included leisure and amusement, there seems here also to be a kind of intercourse which is tasteful. There is such a thing as saying and again listening to what one should and as one should. The kind of people one is speaking or listening to will also make a difference. Evidently here also there is both an excess and a deficiency as compared with the mean. Those who carry humour to excess are thought to be vulgar buffoons, striving after humour at all costs, and aiming rather at raising a laugh than at saying what is becoming and at avoiding pain to the object of their fun, while those who can neither make a joke themselves nor put up with those who do are thought to be boorish and unpolished. But those who joke in a tasteful way are called ready-witted, which implies a sort of readiness to turn this way and that, for such sallies are thought to be movements of the character, and as bodies are discriminated by their movements, so too are characters. The ridiculous side of things is not far to seek, however, and most people delight more than they should in amusement and in jesting, and so even buffoons are called ready-witted because they are found attractive, but that they differ from the ready-witted man, and to no small extent, is clear from what has been said. To the middle state belongs also tact. It is the mark of a tactful man to say and listen to such things as befit a good and well-bred man, for there are some things that it befits such a man to say and to hear by way of jest, and the well-bred man's jesting differs from that of a vulgar man, and the joking of an educated man from that of an uneducated. One may see this even from the old and the new comedies. To the authors of the former indecency of language was amusing, to those of the latter innuendo is more so, and these differ in no small degree in respect of propriety. Now should we define the man who jokes well by his saying what is not unbecoming to a well-bred man, or by his not giving pain, or even giving delight, to the hearer? Or is the latter definition, at any rate, itself indefinite, since different things are hateful or pleasant to different people? The kind of jokes he will listen to will be the same, for the kind he can put up with are also the kind he seems to make. There are, then, jokes he will not make, for the jest is a sort of abuse, and there are things that lawgivers forbid us to abuse, and they should, perhaps, have forbidden us even to make a jest to such. The refined and well-bred man, therefore, will be as we have described, being as it were a law to himself. Such, then, is the man who observes the mean, whether he be called tactful or ready-witted. The buffoon, on the other hand, is the slave of his sense of humour, and spares neither himself nor others if he can raise a laugh, and says things none of which a man of refinement would say, and to some of which he would not even listen. The boor, again, is useless for such social intercourse, for he contributes nothing and finds fault with everything. But relaxation and amusement are thought to be a necessary element in life. The means in life that have been described, then, are 3 in number, and are all concerned with an interchange of words and deeds of some kind. They differ, however, in that one is concerned with truth, and the other two with pleasantness. Of those concerned with pleasure, one is displayed in jests, the other in the general social intercourse of life. Shame should not be described as a virtue, for it is more like a feeling than a state of character. It is defined, at any rate, as a kind of fear of dishonor, and produces an effect similar to that produced by fear of danger, for people who feel disgraced blush, and those who fear death turn pale. Both, therefore, seem to be in a sense bodily conditions, which is thought to be characteristic of feeling rather than of a state of character. The feeling is not becoming to every age, but only to youth. For we think young people should be prone to the feeling of shame because they live by feeling and therefore commit many errors, but are restrained by shame, and we praise young people who are prone to this feeling, but an older person no one would praise for being prone to the sense of disgrace, since we think he should not do anything that need cause this sense. For the sense of disgrace is not even characteristic of a good man, since it is consequent on bad actions, for such actions should not be done, and if some actions are disgraceful in very truth and others only according to common opinion, this makes no difference, for neither class of actions should be done, so that no disgrace should be felt, and it is a mark of a bad man even to be such as to do any disgraceful action. To be so constituted as to feel disgraced if one does such an action, and for this reason to think oneself good, is absurd, for it is for voluntary actions that shame is felt, and the good man will never voluntarily do bad actions. But shame may be said to be conditionally a good thing. If a good man does such actions, he will feel disgraced, but the virtues are not subject to such a qualification. And if shamelessness not to be ashamed of doing base actions is bad, that does not make it good to be ashamed of doing such actions. Continence too is not virtue, but a mixed sort of state. This will be shown later. Now, however, let us discuss justice.